What is your secret that you can't tell anyone because it will probably ruin your life? Story 1. Let me preface this by saying that we had an open relationship, so it didn't matter that he was with another woman. One day I came home from work, he greeted me, was very affectionate, we had sex, ate dinner, and all was well. The next morning I went to my computer and saw that he had uploaded a video of us being intimate the day before. We had talked about filming us together before and had done so a few times, but not in the last few years. He agreed, apologized, and we moved on. Less than a year later, I was awakened when he came to bed. I felt him lift the blankets and then P***F. I saw a light and turned around thinking I was asleep, and he was taking naked pictures of me with his phone. I panicked, and we got into a huge argument. I told him again that this was a major boundary crossing and that I did not think this was a good idea, why he would do this to me, why he saw me at my most vulnerable and could only see it as an opportunity to take advantage, but I got no answer beyond, I don't know, I had him delete the photos. I let him delete the photo, and he left the bedroom and went asleep on the couch. I told him no because I was still struggling with what had just happened and wasn't thinking clearly enough to make such a decision. I asked him if he would do this to anyone else, and he said no. Just me, I guess. We moved on from there. Because as much as I was able to move forward, I stayed another year. That year was the darkest period of my life. I was terrified that he would do it again, that there would be cameras in my bedroom, that he would be watching me through my cell phone camera. I was always hiding. I put stickers on my cell phone camera and on my laptop. I was afraid to sleep naked, but I forced myself to do so several times to get rid of my fear. But I could not truly forgive him, believe him, or recover from the paranoia that he did not do this only when I caught him, and I ended up stealing his account on my computer. Something inside me broke when I found videos of other women over the last few years, taken with hidden cameras of escorts or sex partners. I don't know if they were escorts or sex partners. When I asked him if he was doing this to others, he lied to my face. I told him I was breaking up with him that week. Little did he know that I knew about the other videos. It took me a long time to get over the embarrassment of being there that long. I blame myself for not putting my foot down and breaking up with him first. Setting boundaries means nothing if there are no consequences. It was as if I had given him permission to treat me and others that way. Story 2. About 10 years ago, my father received an anonymous letter that my mother was having an affair. There was no proof, but my mother was very secretive and very protective of her iPad. It almost became a sad joke about her iPad secret. One day I walked by my mother using the iPad and took it away from her to tease her and get a reaction. One day, my mother was out working overtime and my sister found the iPad unlocked. My sister saw it and learned that my mother was meeting with an unfaithful partner. My father was distraught and called me in tears, asking me what he should do. I told my father to stay home with my sister, leaving me in charge. I found the restaurant they were at, turned on my cell phone, recorded it, and went inside. There I found my mother with AP. When I went to their booth, sat down next to them, ordered a beer, and asked what was going on, her expression was one of shock. She started to make excuses, but I called her on her ****T and said I knew this had been going on for years and was just waiting for a chance to catch them. AP, who is married and has a family of her own, started apologizing to me, saying she knew how horrible she had done and that she was sorry. I looked at my mother and asked why she was apologizing when AP had not yet apologized, but she just quietly said she was sorry. I asked more questions and gathered more information, recording it all, and after the most awkward 20 minutes of my life, I wished them a happy life and left the bar. I called my father on the way to his house, made a pit stop at Home Depot to buy a new key for the door, and went to his house to replace the lock. My mother slept in the car that night and said she wanted to pick up her clothes the next day before moving into my brother's house. For the next 2 years, I served as an informal mediator during the divorce proceedings, delivering messages to my mother and collecting and delivering her belongings. The divorce was finalized, and a weight was lifted off my shoulders. The days of having to play mediator and messenger were over, and I was able to regain some of my sanity. It was very difficult for me, but I was the right person for the job, and I loved my family. My father and I have a good relationship, and my relationship with my mother, while not strained, is sometimes awkward. Because of my mother's choices, we have missed important family moments such as my wedding, grandchildren's birthdays, and baptisms. I don't know if my mother would have left my father had I not intervened, but I do believe that the steps I took that night made everyone's lives better in the long run. Because of the emotional pain and heartache this caused me, I probably need therapy, but now, years later, I can still say to those around me that I am okay. Story 3. He liked all of her stuff on Facebook on her stuff on Facebook, but hardly liked any of mine. I've always suspected it, but maybe it's the algorithm. I rationalized. Then, at a get-together with friends, my stomach dropped when I saw her face coming through the door. I held it in for about 3 hours, but I just couldn't get over how bright it was when they were talking. Then I went to the bathroom and threw up to get myself together. I was overreacting and seeing things that were not there. It was anxiety from the fact that my previous relationship ended because he cheated on me. I cried there for an hour, and he didn't even bother to check on me. I ended up going out and not seeing either of them. I don't know what made me do that, but I looked for them both. Then I saw that they were on top of each other. Neither of them even looked at me. They just stopped and stared at the wall, as if I wasn't there. He didn't say anything. He was in denial until I blocked him out. He said she was just drunk, and he was just there for her. I wanted to tell him I wanted him to be there for her, but it didn't make sense. There was no rational thought in his words. He was just spewing out what he thought was the easiest way to end the conversation. He didn't care what I said. But even his friend admitted it. And now she is his girlfriend. Story 4. Her secret heart. She wanted to be a trad wife. I was in my 30s and had a well-paying union job as a welder in a shipyard. We had a house we owned, no other debts, and a car loan. She worked as a sushi waitress a couple of times a week, making a little extra money for our fun and for her hobbies. Things were cool. Shifts never crossed, and if she ever needed a car that day, she would take it to work at 5 a.m. and return to do her job for the day. A few years went by, and she wanted to go back to school. That's great. She was traumatized by public school, so we spent some time talking and decided to start with art classes at a community college. It was less overwhelming, creative, and in line with her interests. She loved it. Wonderful. She liked it so much that she wanted to take the class full-time. We got out our family books and went over things. We decided to add a couple more shifts a month since I could easily work more overtime and she could cut back one sushi shift. As a result, things got tougher, but she really started to grow. Then the next quarter she said she needed her own car to take the classes she wanted. We reworked our finances once again, but the only way to make that happen was for her to earn $300 more per month to cover the purchase of a new car, or for me to work 6 days a week, every week. I told her I would not do that. Welding in a shipyard is hard work. This is when her secret came out. I can't work as hard as you, and I can't earn as much as you. That's how you have to take care of me. Now get used to it.
And
then I realized that no wife wants a 50-50 partnership with me. My wife wanted me to provide her with a lifestyle that she herself did not want to work for the rest of her life. It was 10 years before that moment. 7 years of marriage were shattered by that secretive heart of hers. I filed for divorce 3 months later and never looked back. Story 5. His addiction to camgirl sites. I found out when I saw an insane credit card bill that he could no longer hide. The credit card was through his bank, and he had already exceeded his insane credit limit, and the bank had started taking 80% of his deposited salary to pay it off. When I discovered that CC's bill was over $150,000, he could no longer pay his share of the household's expenses because the bank had garnished his checks to pay off the balance. Pornhub was free and wasn't even there yet. It split in 2015. Where was he interacting on that site? In the bathroom at work, maybe? We were together every waking moment, except for work. At that point, we had been together for 9.5 years. The smart guy ruined our relationship and trust in one fell swoop. Story 6. She and I were best friends in high school and hung out a bit until we broke up after graduation. We remained friends, had a conversation to patch things up, and kept in touch for over 18 years. We made a silly promise to each other that if we were over 35 and single, we would marry each other. We were both single. We were done dating. We were obviously compatible, so we decided, screw it, let's take it slow. I didn't think about it. I didn't suspect anything. She lived about 2 hours away by plane on a direct flight, so it was easy to meet. A few months later, she developed a manic episode and disappeared. So I sent her sister to check on her and called friends. I called the deli where she worked. The moment I told her I was her boyfriend, her boss said, "I am her boyfriend." She was leading a double life. He was giving her money for plane fare to visit sick family members, me, and to see my dying father, who she said was her uncle. I had also helped her with the airfare a few times, so she had the money in her pocket. Her family and I had been in contact during this time, and I told her what happened, and she didn't like it because it exposed her as a fraud against her family. Story 7. I was attracted to my coworker where he was concerned. The difference was, I didn't talk to him outside of work and shut him down as soon as he showed interest in me. A coworker girl gave my ex only an ounce of attention, and he cheated on her and left me almost immediately. He later regretted it and said the grass isn't always greener, but I guess he didn't want to be alone because I wouldn't go back with him. I was happy to be on my own side of the lawn. I would never want to be responsible for how badly others feel because I failed to be faithful at work. Your partner should not have to worry about you going to work. Story 8. One night, she went out with friends. I had a headache and didn't feel like going anywhere, so I stayed home. She had F***D me before, so we kind of shared the place. This idiot still went to this guy's house and didn't come home until 5 a.m. The truth is, I didn't even have a headache. I had a feeling she was talking to him again, so I left it at that. Friday night and Saturday night we were scheduled to have dinner with her parents. I suffered through it, quickly worked on finding a new place to live, and decided to just disappear for the next week. At dinner Saturday night, her mother said, "If you ever want to propose, just let me know and I'll give you a ring." My ex nudged me and said, "Yeah, when are you going to propose?" I said. I laughed hysterically during that exchange. I knew she had been seeing someone else less than 24 hours earlier. Sunday morning, she started complaining to me about the dishes while I was doing them. I finally got fed up and just laughed and said, I'm sorry. She went blank. Story 9. Well, it was our 5th wedding anniversary, and he left his cell phone downstairs. Now he says that he knew, so he ran downstairs when he realized he had left it there. But he had videotaped my closet, my designer bags, and luxury items. He then turned over all my belongings to an escort with a name like methamphetamine. That night he left, 2 $100 bills and a Prada bag were missing. He had uploaded a Snapchat story. He was only there for an hour and a half because he stayed up and waited for me after I nursed my newborn. I was done. I saw his hands going through my clothes and things. I couldn't believe he was showing it to a complete stranger. It was so violent and invasive. It was very sickening. Story 10. My first girlfriend wanted to check each other's credit and see if we were financially compatible. I said, sure. So she signed up for her credit report, and I signed up for mine. She gave me a copy, PDF, of her Experian report. A few weeks later, I overheard her talking to 2 different debt collection agencies. When I questioned her about it, she told me that she had falsified her credit report. I told her that I would have liked to have stayed with her if she had made an effort to clear up her financial past, but I could not overlook the lies. Story 11. A very close friend of mine, but not me, found out that her husband was using an app to cheat on her with basically anyone, male or female. It went on for years and in their own home. But the worst part was that someone sent her a screenshot of a pickup app with another guy, so he could meet up with a truck driver, give him AB******B, and leave a review on that app about the sexual encounter. Story 12. 7 years of cheating, minimal effort, abuse, and threats of suicide after every fight. Coming home from a 16-hour shift on my birthday, I paid for everything. His money went a pot and video games. He wrote his own notes on the back of a printout of a court page about my parents' neglect and abuse and forced me to reread it in front of him, screaming that it was my fault because I wasn't home all day. He forgot my birthday and didn't give me anything for it again. Oh. And we were supposed to get married a month after I left home faced with tears of joy. From what I hear, he is now in extensive therapy and doing much better. Story 13. She worked in one of the stores where I had been merchandising for years. My relationship ended, so a few months later I approached the girl and gave her my phone number. She texted me enthusiastically, but said she had just ended a relationship and didn't want to rush into anything. So I decided to do the same. We got along really well. We played every day for 9 months. Then one night on the phone while on vacation, she heard me tell my mom that I was talking to a friend, and she teased me. She said, "Friends?" I said we'll talk about it when I get home. I told her it had been 9 months, so it was safe to say we were dating. She became quiet and stopped sending me texts. I was very confused. There was no explanation. So I looked her up on Facebook. She hadn't broken up with her boyfriend. She had practically cheated on both of us for 9 months. It was fun. I messaged the guy and told him to call me. When I told him about it, he first said, "This isn't the first time she's done this to me." Then he said, "You said you ****D up once a couple of months ago." They've been seeing each other almost every day, sometimes twice a day for the past 9 months. They are still together. They just had a baby. Story 14. My ex-girlfriend has had many horrible experiences in the past. Her family was abusive and her previous partner was a very horrible person. She began to suffer from mental health issues, but we were working through it. One night we went to an event. Nothing major, just a series of events that set us back. Things happen in life. She spent over half an hour making it into a totally fictitious but huge targeted conspiracy to ruin her evening. Literally, she was talking about how the patriarchy was trying to silence her voice, keep the light from shining on their activities, etc., etc. I was there. It had nothing to do with us or her. It was just the worst thing that happened unexpectedly. We were only marginally affected. But she put herself at the center of the event and made herself the victim. So I started thinking about the story she told me about how everyone around her was evil and she was being attacked. Did her father really break down her door and yell at her? Did her ex-husband really steal all her money and kick her out? Maybe. Maybe not. I watched her fabricate reality into an even worse fiction and then completely believe it. I could no longer trust her. Story 15. I was with my ex for 7 years. During our first year together, I was sexually assaulted by an acquaintance while on an out-of-state trip. I went to the hospital and went to trial, which was later dropped. I had no money and was in a really dark period in my life, so I knew I couldn't put myself through testifying in an out-of-state trial. My ex helped me take pictures of my injuries for the detectives. It was a very dark and intense time. A few years later, I think it was 7 years into our relationship, he was holding me after sex and casually said that he really wanted to break up with me, but realized he couldn't when I called him from the hospital. He also said that he didn't like the fact that I had been raped, but that he was really turned on by it. He apparently ****D again after I called him and after he took pictures of my injuries. I wish I could say this was enough to break it off with him, but I couldn't break it off right away. There were so many other intense and awful experiences in our relationship, and we were definitely over the trauma. But it did take away some of the delusion that he really cared about me. Story 16. I knew she had cheated on me and was trying to work it out in an open relationship. It was her idea, and she was unaware that I knew about her affair. I was using medical marijuana at night to alleviate the pain, and she resented that. Turns out she was doing marijuana with the person she was cheating on me with, thinking I was living in pain. She lost all her friends when she found out I had agreed to an open relationship and lied about the situation after telling her I had changed my mind. Her friends even tried to keep me in the fold. Story 17. The red light I ignored eventually came to light the day I decided to break up with my ex after being beaten up a lot the night before. I went through the house and got what was important to me. During that search, I found a box that had not been there when I moved in 6 months earlier, and upon peeking inside with trepidation, I found my best friend's underwear and bras. They also found his coworkers, who I was told was just a coworker. Underwear, X toy box with missing toys, and my clothes, which my ex-girlfriend said must be missing. My best friend's underwear and bras were very easy to identify because I had washed them for months before she had her own, back when she didn't have a washer or dryer. My ex had never done her laundry and was never near a washing machine, so I knew immediately where they came from. Her fake attitude towards me explained why she was with me when I had done nothing wrong. She was angry that I was home. His coworker, Kayana, had her name custom printed on high-end underwear and bras. I decided right then and there that I could not trust a friend who knew I was being beaten and abused, but was still screwing her ex-boyfriend. After that, I had no regrets about leaving her. I met my current husband, who takes very good care of me, and we have a beautiful son. I don't look back on the past anymore. I left every single one of my friends and am happy to be alone with my little family. Story 18. She was having an affair. Her affair with a married man had been going on for years before we were married, sometimes leading to divorce. When he moved away, she actually followed him from one state to another. After we were married, she helped his wife with her home business, and he was part of my group of friends. I even babysat the kids of the adulterer. We divorced, and I told him they were crazy. I convinced him to leave his wife. She was indeed crazy, and they have been married for almost 10 years. Story 19. We had lunch dates every Wednesday at the same restaurant. It was his favorite place. He told me he was only available on Wednesdays for lunch. One Wednesday, I had my cell phone stolen at work and decided to wait for him at the meeting place anyway. I was there chatting with a waitress I had never seen before. Eventually, I asked to borrow her cell phone, told her my phone had been stolen, and called him. I typed in his phone number, and his contact info showed up, along with a picture of him and his dog in bed. And we said, "How do you know my boyfriend?" I said. She was usually off on Wednesdays and had just covered her shift that day. They have a dinner date every Wednesday. Story 20. A woman who used to be my friend threatened to cut me open to get my baby. She also told me she was dating my boyfriend. She said that my boyfriend C*****M baby daddy, now ex-boyfriend of course, would hold me down while she cut my baby out of me, and we would raise my baby together. I questioned my boyfriend, and he adamantly denied it and said she was just crazy and obsessed with him. She has very serious psychiatric problems, and such outrageous threats and claims were not at all out of the ordinary for her. But it turned out that he was actually in on it all along. Eventually, I was able to find messages between the two of them about it. I also found out that he had poisoned me every time he got me pregnant. Of my 6 pregnancies with him, only my daughter survived. I learned all of this and some more bad information. Story 21. She did not pay the rent. I got mad at her and asked if she could pay. I had already paid her mine and sent it to the landlord. She said she would pay. A few days later, I received a message from the landlord demanding the balance. She had not yet paid the full amount. Finally, I spoke with the landlord and paid the rent from my savings. When the landlord told me the amount, I did the math and found out that not only did she lie about not paying the rent, she lied about only paying part of it, and she had also pocketed $50 of the rent I paid that she was supposed to send to the landlord. I already had one foot out of the relationship at that point, but this prompted me to start actively looking for another place to live. Story 22. I had a girlfriend who worked in stationery sales. It's a big job, actually. She once told me that when she won a contract, she slept with all the men who were her clients. I asked her how I knew she would never do that to me. I looked at her and thought, she has been in this business for 12 years and does 20 or so contracts a year. She probably has more bodies than John Wick. So I didn't quit, but I did work away from home for 3 months. I did not cry. Story 23. He lied about the safe in his closet containing rare coins and passports. After we parted, a mutual friend told me that the safe contained guns and ***** paraphernalia from his father's military service in Germany and a murder billy. letters, photos, and yearbooks of serial killers. My whole body went tingly, and at that moment, I felt like I might have died of shock. I am a huge liberal, terrified of guns and disgusted by people who continue to carry around an **T under the guise of "it belonged to my father." It's 15 months of my life I'll never get back, and my best friend of 20 years has been sleeping with me behind my back for years, and while life is great now with my husband of 13 years, his crusty **S is still shaking down girlfriends and paying for abortions in his 50s. Story 24. While we were dating, I found out that he was going to a prostitute. One day I had a funny feeling and looked at his computer. I looked at his emails and found quite a lot of them. I also found a large amount of Y stored on his computer, something I had never snooped on in 6.5 years. Here's where it gets interesting. My world was falling apart and I needed people around me, so I called my mother and a friend. They came to my side as if they were teleporting me, laughs. The man came home and said things like, "It's not what it looks like," but he showed no remorse. According to my mother and friends, he had an arrogant smile on his face. In hindsight, I am thankful that there were strangers who noticed these things. I asked to see his cell phone, but he said he had left it in his car. I kept my cool. Go get it. When I calmly followed him to his car, he looked surprised. He must have realized that I didn't believe anything he said. Nor did he have a chance to remove anything since I was right there. After all, I did not want to help him overcome his **N/sex addiction. It quickly became apparent that in order to be with this man, I would have to completely dislike myself. I stayed with him long enough to convince him to provide me with his bank statements. I wanted to know how often my buddy used the services of prostitutes. I hired a lawyer because we lived together long enough that where I came from we were as good as married. Bank statements were the key to unlocking the existence of multiple investment accounts. It turned out that he had been his wealth and had increased his net worth by nearly $1 million during our cohabitation. And him. I was buying my own groceries and paying for home repairs without changing my name, which of course I know is S***D. In retrospect, I had very low self-esteem when we started dating and throughout our relationship. I walked away with the dog and a large settlement. The settlement was far less than I was entitled to, but that didn't matter considering how surprised I was by the hordes of millionaires. I know he didn't disclose his proprietary investments, Wealthsimple, etc., but I don't care. I cut off contact after about a month of pointless bickering. Story 25. Her father is not really dead. To be fair, it was a garbage relationship. She was quite abusive, constantly lying and gaslighting me. I knew all about it and just brushed it aside and made excuses. I realized that this lie was the last lie and that I should run away. Shortly after we started dating, she told me that her father was quite sick. She told me that her father had a brain tumor. A few months later, he passed away. Having never lost a parent before, I was horrified for her and did everything I could to be there for her. After the funeral, she refused to let me go. She came back to my house in full funeral attire, veil, gloves, mascara running down her eyes. I comforted her while she told me about the shock of burying her father. Over the next few months, we grew very close as I helped her get through her grief. A little over a year later, my relationship with her became terribly toxic. She cheated on me, beat me, gassed me, and isolated me from my family. I lived in a trance, and every time we took a break, she excused herself and I took her back. I was taking a random lecture at university when I found a message request on Facebook and clicked on it. I looked at the profile and thought it was fake at first, but then I realized it was real. Someone must have hacked my dead father's Facebook, I thought. As I unraveled it, I began to think that maybe he was not dead. I left the classroom and called her and said, "I got a message on FB from your father. What does that mean?" I finally felt the light come on and realized that I needed to be a million miles away from this child. There was no excuse that would justify what she had done. I said my final goodbye to her shortly thereafter. I'm back on my feet now and thankfully I've come to terms with the awfulness of that relationship. Now I hang out with friends, and every time someone mentions a crazy ex-girlfriend, I can feel their heads turn to me. Story 26. This wasn't exactly a breakup moment, but it was the moment I emotionally checked out and knew the end was near. She didn't have a cell phone, ID, or anything, a red herring, I know, but I'm an idiot, so I let her share my cell phone, used my text now number as hers, and left her logged into FB. I tried to respect her privacy, but I could obviously see all the notifications. Besides, I have trust issues based on phone-related evidence of deception in previous relationships. From time to time, I began to notice brand new emails and messages with no previous contact that appeared to be conversations already in progress. For example, a new message from a FB guy saying, "Oh, okay, so you want me to call you tonight?" I would obviously confront her about it, and she would get defensive and make up some nonsensical, elaborate excuse. I didn't want her to think I was jealous, so I eventually walked away. But it kept happening. So I questioned her about it, and she assured me with believable realism that it was nothing and that we were friends. Eventually, she got her own phone and did it all over again. She desperately tried to convince me that one of the numbers was just a friend who sometimes gave me rides and would gladly stop talking to him, and that it was just for the occasional car ride, and that she was not cool with him like that and was just using him to get rides. I was mad and didn't believe any of her C********P, so I reluctantly and S******** Y accepted and told her to delete his phone number. I don't even think anything of him. "Here, I'll erase it," she said and showed me. Besides, even though we had shared my phone completely for months so that she had full access to my phone whenever she wanted, and she had deleted anything from my phone that she didn't want me to see. Girlfriends, old photos, etc. She suddenly became super protective of her phone. She would have to specifically unlock and open the dialer if I needed to use her phone for any reason, or if I tried to reach for something near her phone, she would also suddenly grab it because she thought that was what I was reaching for. At this point, there were plenty of red flags and overt signs, but she was thoroughly gaslighting me and trying to make me think I was being paranoid for no reason. The next day, after she deleted the guy's phone number, she left her phone out while she was in the shower. So I looked at my phone, and she had unblocked the number. I was totally checked out at that point, but after weeks of copious arguing, extreme gaslighting, and just quietly resenting her every waking moment, I finally broke up with her and D her sexier friend for revenge. Turns out, the guy I ended up G was a friend of hers that I D, a mutual friend of his, and he lived in the building next door to my house, and was a middle-aged guy who literally looked exactly like Ed Busmaster's character. He is totally known for giving women money, cars, free meth, and free booze. He collects SSI, lives in a shoddy Hoa G apartment. Doesn't work, so he literally drives around town from morning to night trying to find these girls. And he knew several women, including his now ex and her friend, who would take advantage of him. And from what I've heard, some of the desperate ones actually D his gross us. Story 27. I found out that he was secretly married and leading a double life. He traveled a lot for work, and we only saw each other on weekends, so our relationship progressed more slowly than I was used to. He told me that he and his ex-wife would be living together, sleeping in separate rooms, until their daughter turned 18 and graduated/went to college, but that was months away, so I was cool with that. A year after we started dating, I became suspicious when I asked to meet his daughter/ex-wife. I was suspicious because they weren't home when he invited me over. I was prepared to see them every time. Of course, every time we had a plan, that plan was always foiled and COVID outbreak. I work in long-term care, and we lost about 30 residents in a short period of time, with 71 out of 100 residents becoming infected. After an argument, I got fed up and found my ex-wife on Facebook and straight up asked her if we were really separated. She said no and that she had been happily married for 11 years. Oh, not only was I the mistress, but after I posted publicly about him on Facebook, another acquaintance of mine told me she was dating him too. He was a pathological liar, a true pathological liar. He was a pathological liar and a manipulative man. I dread the day I run into him somewhere. Story 28. I used to have a very toxic relationship with my ex-girlfriend. When I was in school, I was raped, and when I would wake up at night crying from nightmares about it, she would comfort me. Most of the time her comfort was that I deserved it, that I had to get over it, that she had it worse, so there was no need to feel bad. I'm not sure what she meant by that. Now, it turns out that she was participating in a group chat where she was just making fun of me. She told all of my traumas to those people, and whenever I woke up crying, she would tell them. I was away from home for 2 weeks trying to come back to life, and she made fun of me the whole time. I only found out about this because she left her cell phone on the bed while she was showering and I thought she was cheating on me, so I checked it out. When she got the call, she took it in the other room and did not let me see who it was. It was a real eye-opening experience. Story 29. My daughter's iPhone was a hand-me-down from my then-wife. One night, my then-wife was out with a coworker, while my then-wife was having a sleepover at a friend's house with the twins. Then I found out that there was a screenshot of a heart text when my face lit up after plugging it in. Since my kid was 6 years old, he uses a drawing app on his iPhone, so I let him use the old one. I figured as a father I should make sure nothing weird was going on. My wife at the time was confessing all kinds of things to her lover via iPhone in graphic screenshot text. It was synchronized in real time with my daughter's phone, which I had in my hand. She was secretly confiding and sleeping with a mutual friend over an hour away. She had taken the kids to her friend's house to be taken care of. I can't stand being in the same room with him. When I say I love you, I mean it. I need to time it so my friends don't disown me. I said I was extra busy, but I got a second job to save enough money to leave home. That son of a B********H stayed on the couch for New Year's, and she kept texting me and saying she wished she could sneak a B*******B. Not only that, but apparently she secretly told all our friends, he's a private person, so don't talk about it to me. She had tamed our friends and planned her plan in advance so that when the time came, she would not be the monster she was. Everyone but me knew the lie, and it was twisted to the point that I could no longer trust anyone. This wife was the one I had spent nearly a decade with. She was bipolar, narcissistic, ADHD, and obsessed with something new every month. She didn't care what it would do to anyone. A ruthless, selfish, self-absorbed monster who, at that moment, destroyed our family. No more Christmases spent opening presents by the tree together. I would miss half of my children's childhood. I would suffer in an empty house, frightened of my own shadow, paranoid, and unable to trust anyone anymore. I start going through my cell phone and find out all about the traitor that she secretly helped him behind my back. I later found out that she had planted hidden cameras in the house to catch me doing something wrong. When I confronted her, she broke down and cried for me to forgive her. I stayed stoic and unemotional until she signed the post-nuptial agreement. I did not sleep for 5 days. I locked myself in my room and did not let her in. I decided that I could still give my children a loving father, so I decided to be patient and give them a decent childhood by finding out if she was truly remorseful. On our wedding anniversary, she hired someone to sing a song about us. She blamed everything on her disability and impulsiveness and wondered why she had spent time with someone else. I was depressed. About a year passed before I began to see that she was trying and that maybe I could really move on and give her a chance for the sake of our children. And she did it again. A different guy. This time it was a week-long game/event. She volunteered to stay another week. I went home and watched the kids. Apparently, everyone there somehow knew she was flirting with him, but said nothing. How humiliating. When I returned home, the water heater was broken. I am struggling through 12-hour workdays while taking care of my 2 children, taking freezing cold showers, and going crazy counting the days she will be back. We still don't know anything about the other guy. She was supposed to come home on Sunday. Our family was suffering at home and really needed her support. No explanation whatsoever. A few weeks later, she said she wanted a divorce and left the house. She left a week later, and less than a month later, she was supposed to watch the kids on my birthday weekend, We had signed a post-nuptial agreement, so I would have the house and we would split the kids' time between us. So, I decided to spend my birthday with the kids at the museum. On my birthday, I found out she was in another state and screwing a new guy. It shows how sick the narcissist is.
It's been a year now.
I am doing well. I try not to think about it too much because it triggers panic attacks and I hate feeling suffocated. It could have been worse. Story 30. It's easy. I always suspected she had BPD. I got to know her friends. She told me that my ex had even done things that I always thought she would never do. She said my current friend, her ex, wanted me to turn her into an alcoholic and drug addict. I always encouraged her to stop drinking because it was affecting her mood. Also about idealizing the first guy she cheated on me with. She also felt a special connection with him, unlike how she felt with me. I always told her we were special. She ticked all the right boxes. Just kidding, I thought she was special too. But it sounds like it was a special, awful partner. The day after she left home, I went to bed with a smile on my face. What did I expect from someone like her? Story 31. I had my first serious relationship with my girlfriend when I was 19. Long story short, it was an incredibly toxic relationship. For a long time, I fantasized about leaving her, got depressed, and hoped that every breakup would bring her back. About a year into our relationship, she once told me in private that she had a nervous habit of pulling hair out and eating it. I Googled it and came up with a rabbit hole called BPD. The next day, the thought that I could fix her, or fix us, burst through and ended the relationship. It took me about 5 months, from the time we broke up until I moved back home from college for the summer, to get her to stop showing up at my door and trying to manipulate me with sex, threats of self-harm, etc. It's been over 10 years since then. I'm married and have kids, but I think that T has permanently affected me in a bad way. Story 32. My ex had an affair at work. He worked for a defense contractor. His affair partner fell down the QAnon rabbit hole early, circa 2018, and used her sexual wiles to seduce a man she thought might lead her to an underground bunker where she thought they were locking up children to torture. I found out because she brought a gun to work, and when she was arrested, I gave her a list of men who were trying to honeypot her. I was at my worst financially and emotionally, and had been in a toxic codependency for years, so learning the secret was like coming out of a dark cave. I opened a secret bank account and began preparing for my new life. Story 33. My girlfriend had an old friend who was her baby daddy. The friend was in an accident that slowed her down a bit, but she got a large settlement. She was driving his car, which she claimed was hers. She had him buy Christmas presents for her and the kids and paid the rent. She told him that I was just a friend and that she would be with him when she could. She clearly had no intention of staying with him. When I found out what she was doing, I told him. His mother had to call the police to get his truck back because she refused to return it. She also cheated on him a lot. She also drove drunk with her kids in the car. Story 34. The custom-made diamond ring my parents bought me for my 21st birthday was so gorgeous. It was like the first real piece of jewelry I ever owned. I kept it in my ring box every day, except when I was taking a shower or doing the dishes. One day, I couldn't find the ring and panicked. I looked for it everywhere. My ex also pretended to panic. His performance deserves an Academy Award, and looked everywhere. A week later, his sister's wedding ring went missing. My sister and her husband reported it to the police and also told them about my ring. We all lived together. He still denied it, but the pawn shop's cameras showed otherwise. Story 35. In his 28-year-old book of poetry, which he had hidden by his bedside, he wrote about a 19-year-old female colleague with whom he had befriended. He wrote about her beautiful gray eyes. My eyes are green. I had been paying all his living expenses for over a year and had just returned from a Valentine's Day trip. I packed my stuff while he was at work and kicked him out that day. I highlighted particularly unfavorable parts of the diary, so he wouldn't be confused as to why I was angry. But he was not in a realistic relationship with me. He was in a fantasy relationship with her. I was merely his meal ticket. Story 36. I dressed up for a friend's wedding. I'm not the girly type, so this was the first time he had ever seen me in a dress. He was so thoughtful, which is not like him, and kept saying how much he liked my dress, and I just kept saying, "Thank you." I kept saying, "Thank you. I love your dress, and I love wearing dresses." To each his own, but he had hinted several times before that he was questioning his sexuality. At this time, I already had an ex-husband who cheated on me with his boss, who is also a man. I know everyone is different, and it's not fair to compare him to my ex, but I ended the relationship shortly after that for absolute fear of going through the same experience again. Luckily, we were able to part on good terms. Last I heard, he had left the church and was dating another man. He seems happy, and I'm glad he found something that works for him. Story 37. Years ago, I was a single father, dropping my kids off and picking them up from elementary school. I usually flirted with the mothers there, but one mother was clearly into much more than that. She had just been discharged from the army and had just returned from serving in Iraq. That tells you a lot about when it happened. She was a single mother of 3 girls. Her parents helped her with the kids, etc. After about 3 months, something really didn't add up. To some people, she would introduce him as her boyfriend, but to others, she would introduce him as a friend. It all became clear when she decided to spend the weekend in the city to visit a friend who was on vacation from Iraq. No big deal. Those were the days of MySpace, and to be honest, she and I were not MySpace friends. It didn't matter. I slept with her every day. While she was gone, I decided to send her a friend request on MySpace and looked her up. She was engaged with a man who is currently deployed in Iraq. Her latest post was that she had come to the city to spend time with her fiancé and had a picture of the two of them. When I questioned her after I got back, her excuse was, "I'm just really H******Y and sex with you is really good, so what does it matter? We are not going to do anything more than have sex." She did not listen to my argument that maybe it was important to him. She seriously wanted us to continue sleeping together without telling him and not obsessing over each other. I couldn't do that. I didn't want to be the guy who did that. I left her that day. He was in active combat, so I didn't bother to tell him. I figured it was best to leave him alone. I kept looking at their MySpace page out of curiosity, but in the end, he never made it out of Iraq. He never saw her again. Story 38. She was jealous of my therapist and said I wasn't making enough progress. Believing she had my best interest at heart, I switched to another therapist she recommended. After my second session with my new therapist, they ended the session by recommending that I research a particular topic on my own. I did so. I had never heard of personality disorders. That's how I found out all about her. It was surreal. I can't believe they deduced her disorder in just 2 sessions. Turns out her last partner had also seen this therapist. She didn't want to go to therapy, so we had to end it. Story 39. We were living with his dad and stepmom, and his dad was in the hospital for a heart attack, and his stepmom was away from home. He fed me inconsistent pot brownies, and I passed out, and all I remember is him pacing back and forth in the house. He was psychotic, bipolar. He was manic. He took money from his father and stepmother and did cocaine behind my back for weeks. He was caught pawning my stepmother's silver coins and threatened to burn down the house where my wife and I and our 2 daughters were, and said he would cut the horse's throat. So, he went to jail, and I escaped the situation. Story 40. She took out a payday loan online to gamble at an online casino and asked me to deposit money into her account. This was the 5th time she asked me to deposit $600 into her account at the bank. My medical bills were only $1,600, yet she deposited over $600 5 times. Fortunately, the bank teller made a mistake and told me about something called FirePay and warned me that there were many scammers using it. I asked what FirePay is typically used for, and he said many online casinos use it to send and receive money. It was only after he explained it to me and revealed that I had at least 2 dozen FirePay transactions in my account. When I told him that I don't gamble online and have never used FirePay, he checked again and realized that he had accidentally looked at my wife's account instead of mine because I had deposited into both. I went home and questioned my wife, and after an argument, I finally got the full story. We didn't get divorced, but I started sleeping on the couch. So my wife had an affair with a guy she met on MySpace. She told me she was going to visit a friend in Illinois who I knew and knew she was really close with. But when I checked with him, he told me repeatedly that she was going through a city I had delivered to many times and that she had stopped at a gas station to take a leak one time after leaving that city. So her return trip was 2.5 hours longer than it should have been. As a delivery driver, it is essential to know exactly how long it takes to get from one place to another, and I knew it would only take 3.5 hours from that city to my house. Having been caught in so many lies, I decided to check my cell phone bill online. I checked her calls while she was away and found that they were all to Nebraska or Kentucky, with the only exception of calls to her home. Her parents lived in Kentucky, which would explain why she was calling there, but as far as I knew, she did not know anyone in Nebraska. Eventually, a friend of mine used Vonage and was able to mask the area code on his phone, so I had him call that number from his phone. He set it to a Nebraska area code and made up a fake reason to call that number. Eventually, I found out it was a guy named Chad. Once I had the name, I paid a girl I knew to call the number from my wife's cell phone. She was eating M&Ms while talking to him, mimicking my wife's speech pattern so well that it was hard to notice that her voice was not my wife's. She asked what he was doing and treated it like a phone call she had made many times. He fell for it, and they continued to have a conversation that showed what kind of relationship they had. In the end, my friend and he just talked us *****T about me. My wife broke down in tears and begged me not to hurt her. In the end, I did not contest the divorce, only negotiated a fair custody arrangement. I let her get everything she wanted. Custody was 50-50, and I offered to pay $400 a month in child support. We never dated again after that. It's been over 20 years now. Story 41. She married her husband after 4 months of dating. She never told me that she was in a serious relationship. We lived as husband and wife in her parents' apartment, but because of our jobs, we had several periods of long-distance relationships, even though we talked on the phone every day. We always had the same chemistry and excitement as a couple, and like everyone else, we made plans for the future. We spent as much time together as we could, but most of the time we traveled. At least that's what I thought. When I got pregnant with him 16 years later, she told me the truth and promptly kicked me out to live with him full-time.
By phone.
Her entire family blocked me at the same time and dumped all my stuff on the street. I had not been informed for 16 years. Story 42. My ex used to tell me that it would hurt her more to find out that I had cheated on her with an emotional but sexless partner than to have a meaningless affair. I always told her that I understood how she felt, but that I thought both were equally betraying. Turns out, she desperately loved her G******Y friend and was constantly telling him that if she wasn't married and he was into women, things would be so much better. The G******Y friend told me about it because he seriously did not like that. I genuinely felt sorry for him. My ex had a very different opinion about emotional and sexless affairs than I did. That was the last time I saw her, so I walked away. Story 43. This is an old story. But back in my senior year of high school, I was dating a strange girl, as she was called, blonde, slender, and wore big glasses. One was that she was in an incestuous relationship with her own brother, which I thought must be a rumor made up by the popular kids at school. A few months after we started dating, she got into religion and started going to church every Sunday. But she became obsessed with church. Suddenly, she was a senior in high school, and the first week of the school year, she asked me to meet her at her house after school. When I went to her house after school, she sat me down and told me that she had visions of us getting married and starting a ranch together, and that she needed to confess her sins to me. She told me that while we were dating, she had been having sex with her own brother in the pool house for months, that it took courage and humility to confess it to me, and that she had stopped having sex with him a month before, and that she had also trapped a wild rabbit in a small cage behind her house and set it on fire in the outhouse when her parents were at work. I told her straight out that I liked to light fires in the shed outside our house when my parents were at work, and that I had stopped doing that a few weeks ago. I ended up waiting for her to go to the bathroom before getting on my bike and pedaling home for dear life. It was only recently, as an adult, that I learned that she had been arrested for animal cruelty and beating/abusing her then husband.
P.S.
I am now happily married to the love of my life, and our 3-year anniversary is next month. Story 44. She was a teacher at school and came home crying one Friday. When I asked her what had happened, she said she had overheard other teachers talking bad about her during recess. Trying to comfort her, I asked what they had said. Sobbing, she said that the other teachers had told her that she couldn't do anything because she spent so much time with her assistant teacher. She betrayed me 2 years ago, and we are trying to rebuild our marriage and its trust. Do you spend too much time with him? I will never forget the look on her face. It was a look that said, I wasn't supposed to tell you. I knew. I said nothing. I got up, went to the other room, emailed the divorce attorney I had been thinking about 2 years ago, and told him I was ready to go. Story 45. It was a situationship, not a real relationship. We agreed to have a casual relationship. But the guy was having sex with me because he had a relationship with a friend of mine and thought I was going to hit on him as my fiancé. And since we had no feelings, he thought that if we stopped seeing each other, she might want to go out with him. Because he was mediocre in bed, and after a few weeks he started being mean to me. So I didn't talk to him. When we were all out with friends, he got annoyed with me because I wasn't paying enough attention to him, lol, and he was drunk and ended up blurting out the truth when he got mad. My friend was instantly like, F*** K no brother, and obviously I told him to go F*** K himself. The next day I had to confess to him twice because he only remembered that we had fought and not that we had ended the fight. Story 46. He just decided to hustle pool all day and pretend to go to school for a whole semester with the tuition I paid. I was a cheerleader and had the misfortune of marrying the captain of the football team. My entire hometown absolutely loved my ex everywhere I went. Everyone told me how amazing he was because he was a football hero who had taken them to the state tournament. He would come home and pretend to study at the dining room table every day for a semester, all the while partying at the pool hall or bar, dealing and doing drugs. The original plan was for me to continue working full-time to pay the bills and help him pay for college while I went back to school as well. Of course, that never came to fruition. He became paranoid and dreamed that I was leaving him, and when he woke up he attacked me. Even before he attacked me, he took the spark plugs out of my car and threw them all over the ground to prevent me from driving away when I tried to escape. So when I tried to drive away, I had to pick up the spark plugs and put them in. I managed to make it to the marina, where I lucked out and found a mechanic who fixed it that night. After I left, he stalked and threatened me, eventually ending up stabbing a neighbor who confronted him after witnessing him trying to break in through the window of my new apartment while I slept. He finally went to jail for that, and fortunately I have not had any contact with him since. But I went to great lengths to make sure that didn't happen, to avoid him, and to make sure he never found me again. Story 47. She was always in need of money, not having enough hours at work at all, or unexpected expenses. At least once a month, she would ask me for money for gas, groceries, and all sorts of other things. No problem, of course. Turns out she gets the same money from her mother, and from her father. Sometimes even from friends. Where did your money go? One day, she went to get her passport. She opened a safe that I did not know, took the passport from it, and quickly closed the door. The safe was stuffed full of cash. She admitted that she never actually had any money problems and was just taking advantage of everyone. Story 48. During our discussion phase, we found out that she was sleeping with someone else. She was sleeping with both of us. A week before we officially started dating, she almost did it again with him, having lied to me for 4 months. She told me she only slept with me. She said she hadn't had sex in 4 months, and the last person she slept with was her ex. I found an email between her and her friend talking about how hot the sex was and how she liked him better. She tried to work it out, but the trust was gone. She lied about getting tested. She assured me that she hated her ex and always liked me better. Guess who she slept with a few days after we broke up? Yep. She literally moved into my house, redecorated, repainted, talked about marriage. It was all my fault. I was the toxic one. Her words. Story 49. They made plans with me, said all the fun things we would do together, told me they loved me, and said they had never felt this way about anyone else. They pretended to be single, but ended up loving someone else all the time. I love them very much.
They are married now.
With a man who looks a bit like me. It makes me feel kind of weird. That should have been me. But I'm glad I wasn't with those people. They were very special people, but they were draining and not good for my partner's mental health. But it's kind of sad that they're not even friends anymore. But that's my fault. As soon as I found out they had partners, I ran away and closed the door on them. Story 50. I learned from my ex-girlfriend's sister that both of the men who publicly accused my wife of raping her were her ex-boyfriends, and she only said so because they broke up with her. I broke up with her a short time later, but not strictly because of this. I knew it could happen and was hopeful that it would not, but imagine what she started saying about me. Luckily, I had told my lawyer about the possibility and had shared my emails with my ex's sister, so she was able to squash it right after the initial Facebook post. I don't think anyone wants to be accused of lying. Story 51.
Stay tuned.
We moved to a city together in 2021 and made many wonderful and successful friends. My ex was a very insecure guy, always wanting to impress others and appear better. He had a side job training AIs for a cybersecurity company. The job required him to sign a contract and give his Google password for initial setup. My ex would get paid by the company per person, and a portion of the profits would go to them. One day, about a year into this job, he left his computer open and I saw him logging into about a dozen women's accounts. There was no company. He created it. He created the contacts, the business cards, the websites. Every night, he ****D to private images of these women. The curtain of hell was lifted, and many people hated his guts. He should by all means go to jail. I also found out at the same time that he was having an affair with a girl he met on Reddit and was sending her nudes of me under the assumption that I was his ****XS****E and wanted more from him. Story 52. I have never seen your phone history at.
Why?
We have been married for 14 years. One day I got a bunch of incoming calls from a number I looked up. It was a dorky married surgeon, 58, she was 36, who had played a few gigs with some people in a band she enjoyed. I was a stocky 6 feet 5 inches powerlifter with a good job and loved by friends and family. Turns out they had been fighting in the hospital parking lot for 2 years. She was gaslighting me, saying that I was the cause of the arguing and feeling bad I was feeling. She sent me to therapy and made me think about what I was doing wrong. They only called each other, never texted, and when they were at home, they blocked each other's numbers so they wouldn't call me. She even had a fake calculator app with pictures. She claimed that they were twin flames and had been together in another life. She also lied to her therapist and did all kinds of nasty manipulations. Just kidding. A coworker referred her to a fitness trainer, and now she has a beautiful, kind, caring partner. Story 53. I was with my ex for 10 years. All 3 of our children are mine. Toward the end, she met a man. They started seeing each other regularly. I sensed it and told her to stop, and we thought about family.
My youngest was 2 years old at the time.
She wanted an open relationship. She said she would not stop seeing him, so I left. She said he made money, went to school, and would take care of her and her 3 children. She said I had no ambition, and he was building a life for his children. Her mother called me and said this guy has disappeared all over the place and her ex and her daughter have not been able to reach him for days. I just listened to her, thinking, oh well. 10 minutes later I get a call from my ex-girlfriend. I told her that there was no way I was breaking up with him when we were not fully back together. She said, I'm breaking up with him. Fine, get out of here. In short, he lied to me.
What?
His name, where he lives, his job, that he just got married. He was newly married, dating my ex-wife, and he was still hitting on people my ex knew on dating sites. She still tried to make it work with him. Also, he wasn't that attractive in person, but my ex-wife wouldn't let me say the wrong thing. Story 54. I didn't know many of the secrets until my ex-lover and father of my child committed suicide. We were together for almost 6 years, and during my first pregnancy, he cheated on me and begged me to stay because he wanted help, and we went to couples counseling. I should have listened when the therapist told me to leave him, that he would never change. The relationship had its ups and downs. When I was down, it was awful. I knew something was going on, but I had no proof, and it made me lash out. He kicked me out of the house we were living in, and I took my 2 kids and drove 3 hours away from my parents. This happened 5 or 6 times. The last time, I was fed up. I couldn't take it anymore, so I started moving on. It scared the hell out of me, and in the last 2 weeks before he killed himself, he begged to stay with me. I did my best to politely tell him that I wanted to see him in more therapy. He made 2 suicide threats, but always contacted his family when he did. He begged me one last time and showed up at my parents' house at 4:30 a.m. He drove there in the middle of the night with my children. I was very upset because I had to work in the morning, so I told him he needed to continue working the night shift and enjoy his time with my children. After his death, his best friend ended up telling me that he had been seeing someone right after we broke up and brought her around my kids. After pleading with me at 4:30 in the morning, we had only been broken up for 5 weeks, and telling me that he would kill himself if she didn't come home with him, he drove to her house, had sex with her, went home, and killed himself a few hours later. I found out that he had been cheating on me with a number of women throughout our relationship. He spent all his money on clothes and shoes and was in debt for over $50,000. He also left me with his family with no boundaries and ended up keeping the car he killed himself in as a present to my children, therefore. Even though I made it clear I never wanted to see that car again. His sisters harassed my family and friends over his clothes I had and told everyone it was my fault he died. Maybe someday I will find the courage to repair the relationship for the sake of my children, but 2 years later, I am still hurting more than ever. I finally found a therapist that works for me. I no longer drink frequently and have a boyfriend who loves me and my children more than anything. I suffer from anger issues, depression, and anxiety. But I don't want to let my ex get the best of me. Story 55. He had been sexting with his ex, who had previously thrown a knife at him and told me not to worry about him, and having some sort of affair with his sister-in-law for many years. I think he bought her engagement ring for his brother. She was sending him nude pictures and other things. I don't know any more details than that, but they exchanged a lot of other things. He also forgot he was still married to his wife until we had been dating for over a year, and only casually divulged it in conversation after we got engaged. Yes, there have been 3 women too many to count, and it is 100% verified and true. Should I have broken up with any of these women? Yes, I should have. But 3 times, and with a consistent pattern of lying, being G, and gaslighting me as the problem with any of them over an extended period of time, I was able to break it off. Story 56. I hesitantly agreed to the prenuptial agreement. I only skimmed over the part of the prenup that basically said what was mine, and what was his. A year ago, we were having marital problems, and I decided to look over the prenup, so I would know what would happen if we were to get a divorce. What I didn't know was that there was a section in the prenuptial agreement that mentioned splitting the bills, including groceries. He never mentioned that section to me. I had been paying 100% of the groceries for 4 years. When I told him what was in the prenuptial agreement, he immediately accused me of looking for ways to entrap him in the divorce. He then blamed me for not reading the prenup carefully. I did the math, and the man owes me $30,000. Yes, I am still with him, but I no longer have feelings for him. He has been financially unfaithful, but he thinks he can fix that now by reviewing his grocery receipts line by line and figuring out which groceries he should pay for half and which purchases I should pay for 100%. Story 57. He was beginning to act strangely, and I was feeling paranoid that he was trying to cause problems. Anyway, along with the other behaviors he was exhibiting, I succumbed to my insecurities and ended up snooping on his cell phone. As a result, I snooped on his cell phone. I found out that he used to beat up his ex-girlfriend over every little thing and frequently threatened her. I also found out that he often cheated on her with someone who had the same last name as mine and had an affair with someone who had the same last name as mine. I became even more paranoid that he only went after me because my name would hurt his ex-girlfriend. I found out that he still harasses her daily. I discovered that he also said ridiculous amounts of C********* P about me to try to make people in his life think I was crazy. Almost all of it made up, and he started saying those things a few days after we decided to make our relationship official and exclusive. I had wondered why his friends had suddenly turned cold to me right after we declared our relationship. Obviously, there was something fishy going on in his mind, and it wasn't a safe situation for me. So I made a plan to break up, and the second time I tried, it worked. When I originally tried, he kept showing up and his behavior was so erratic that I didn't feel it was safe to turn him down outright. The second time he dumped me, and thankfully, he's left me alone ever since. Anyway, the most ridiculous thing is that I was 100% right about why he stayed with me. Less than a week after the second breakup, he moved in with the woman he was cheating on me with, who had the same last name as mine. I found out that he forced his daughter to introduce me to her early on, and tried to use her to make his ex-girlfriend think that he had been with the other woman all along instead of the two women with the same last name. Every action he took was only to hurt my ex. Also, on the day we formalized our relationship, he had sex with another woman right after he dropped me off at home. He did not believe that she and I knew each other and had been in a friendship before. Frankly, good riddance. Story 58. While he was sleeping in my house, I was doing laundry. I found a document in his pocket. It was a deposition from witnesses at his trial that he had manipulated an underage girl into living with him. She was 14, and he was 32. She came from a broken home, met him through a friend, and convinced him to let her stay at his house a day after they met. He claimed in his statement that he did not know she was 14. However, her friend who introduced them knew about her and him. Her mother also knew, and he told the girl to tell her mother where she was and who he was. The girl claimed he told her that if she was his girlfriend, she was obligated to have sex with him. Her mother apparently sued him for his actions, but it was 6 months later. The plot is full of holes, but it doesn't matter. It was enough for me to leave him the next day. I didn't even tell him why. Story 59. He was outrageously crazy. When I first met him, he told me a bunch of lies about how his ex-girlfriend ghosted him and called him AP******O. He wouldn't tell me her name and blocked her on my phone when I was sleeping. When I broke up with him, he tried to write a restraining order saying I threatened his life. The case went to court, but was summarily dismissed due to lack of evidence. A few months later, he got into a relationship with another person who doxed him by writing on his Instagram profile that he was AP*****O. To this day, I have no idea who this guy is. He assumed it was me and 2 other men that I somehow knew. He doxed all 3 of us and our phone numbers. I learned that he had told people that he had a restraining order against us. I sent the photos, which were dismissed due to lack of evidence, to a gossipy girl, and all the harassment went away. Unfortunately, one of the other guys who was doxed literally lost his mind. He now has a restraining order against his ex-girlfriend. Story 60. She could have been married. We were sweaty buddies in high school and went to college together with the intention of getting married right after med school, but life happened and we broke up a year before I graduated. When she came back, she said she wanted to get back together and try again and asked if we could try it out. Being the idiot that I am, I agreed to give it a try. Her father was going with her and asked me to watch his dog while he was away. Long story short, I went into their house, got thirsty, went to the kitchen and found a cup with the words, name of cheating partner plus appropriate German name, insert date here on it. Curious, I went to my ex's room and sure enough, there was a picture of her in a white dress being kissed by a guy in a tuxedo in Las Vegas. All these years later, I still wonder what her plan was. Did she want to get divorced and then come right back and find a new husband? Story 61. We had always been in a ******Y open relationship. At this point, we were already on the verge of breaking up the relationship, and he had found someone new to be his main, who was willing to put up with his BS. He professed that he just wanted someone to take care of him. I thought I still loved him, but only till I found out that the woman he had dated after we broke up had gone out with her without telling me on our anniversary, when she was too drunk to consent. So not only did he cheat on her, open relationships only work when everyone knows what is going on. He sexually assaulted someone. That finally turned his head on. He is still with her. As far as I know, he is still with her. Ironically, they both still say I was the problem. Story 62. I was telling my ex how much I love to travel and how I've been traveling for years. He has been to at least half of the United States, plus more than 10 countries. He often told me and all my friends and family how he grew up in England. It was common knowledge for years, and after the pandemic it was my dream to travel more again. One morning I was telling him about my recent trip to England and how I had been there with my brother, and his mother was jokingly envious. My jaw dropped when he told me that his ex's mother had never left the US. He said he was just lying to keep me around, to look cool. Story 63. She was a male student groupie. We were in college together for a year and a half. We went from best friends to inseparable, and then to being in love. In college, I was working, and on Saturdays and Sundays I usually had to get up very early to open the store where I worked. She would be out with friends at frat parties, but we always stayed in touch throughout the night, and she would call me when she got home. When I got a Saturday off, I tried to go to a couple of parties but couldn't get in even though I had over 6 girls with me. Our sex life was great. I basically stayed at her house on weekdays, studying with her, hanging out, and just being with her. Towards the end of our relationship, we both turned 21 at the same time. Most of her friends were also 21 and had moved into the bar scene at our college, so I was very excited to be able to go to bars with her and get her out of the frat party once and for all. After we turned 21, things started to get weird when she chose to go to a frat party with a few of her still young friends, even though we had the whole weekend off. Another girl I was close with from a class in my major was also at that party, and she videotaped my girlfriend making out with some random guy and took me to one of the bedrooms that was blocked off from the rest of the party. Needless to say, I spent the rest of that weekend in a state of calm and absolutely drowned my sorrows in alcohol. Afterwards, her friends, who I assumed were also my friends, basically told me in no uncertain terms that she had a friend who was a top frat boy and that she liked the extra attention and ended up going along with it. When I met the girl a few years ago, my ex-girlfriend actually started a relationship with a guy and tried to get him to commit, but he practically told her to F*** K off and that all he wanted was sex. That was comforting to me. Story 64. We argued once on the phone. I raised my voice. She had decided to stay at her ex-boyfriend's house. I cursed her. Yes, that's when the volume of my voice went up. She remembered it was triggering. The next day, she came back and apologized. We tried to make up over the weekend. When I got home from work on Monday, all her stuff was gone. She contacted my ex-girlfriend and asked if I was in danger. My ex-girlfriend was very close and had never met her. She started telling all of our people that she felt she was in danger. And that was the end. That was the end. The only reason she felt in danger was because I raised my voice on the phone when she slept with my ex-girlfriend. Too much gaslighting drama. Story 65. But I have to tell you this story. A girl on a podcast I was listening to recently told me that she had known a guy for 7 years, dated him for 6 years, lived with him for at least a year or two, and had a perfectly normal relationship. It was normal dating, normal life, normal disagreements, that sort of thing. On a perfectly normal night a few years ago, they were lying in bed watching TV. She suddenly felt sleepy and decided to close her eyes and rest. When she woke up a short time later, she was met with an extraordinary sight. She also noticed at this point that her boyfriend had put roofies in her drink, which she confirmed. Then, while she was unconscious, he removed a 3 by 6 inch piece of flesh from her thigh with near surgical precision and care and was gnawing on it when she awoke. At that point, she felt no pain and did not bleed much. Neither she nor her boyfriend spoke, she said. She was too shocked, and her boyfriend probably just recognized that he had been caught. He ate part of her piece of meat, stuffed the rest in his pocket, got up and left the apartment. The OP called the police, who came and found BF wandering a few blocks away with the meat in his pocket. Unfortunately, he was convicted and is currently in prison, but his wealthy family was able to get him to reduce his sentence by arguing that she had harmed herself, he was trying to stop her, etc., whereas his wealthy family was able to hire a good lawyer, which the OP could not. But there was so much evidence against him, the meat in his pockets, the blood on his hands, the roofies in her body, that thankfully he got at least a few years in prison. Opie, of course, is now very worried that he will hurt someone after he gets out of prison. The note she wrote to appear on the podcast read, "I had no idea that my boyfriend of 6 years was a cannibal and wanted to eat me." She also never spoke to him again until she went to court, all through her lawyer, of course, and since he was trying to deny any wrongdoing, she also does not know if this is his first offense, what he thought would happen if she did not wake up halfway through, etc. I feel very sorry for her. Story 66. My fiancé was acting really weird.
She said she was super sick.
We were living together, and her brother had moved out, so we had an extra bedroom. She wanted to be alone, and I said I would sleep on the floor. No, she wanted to be alone. Well, I'll sleep upstairs, I won't bother you.
No, not enough.
She went out with a friend and told him to stay at his place. I'm S********D, but I'm not S*******D. But I'm not S*******D. I parked the car around the corner from the house. I pretended she wasn't feeling well and watched her leave the house, but she was fine. I texted her and asked her what she was up to. She said nothing and went to bed. I walked to my apartment and went into the extra bedroom. She came home around 5 a.m. I waited, but she fell asleep. I was worried she would be alone, and what if there was another man in the bed? I was already broken, but that would have pushed me over the edge. But when I got up the courage to go downstairs, she was alone. But someone had texted me, so I took a look before waking her up. It said, my Y Pokemon trainer. Pokemon Go had just come out and was all the rage. More on that later. Tonight was fun.
Can't wait to hold you again.
Leave him. I decided not to wake her and snuck out of the house and drove around for a few hours until she texted me, "Hey, I'm awake, I miss you, come home, LOL." I hadn't done heroin for 3 years at this point, but I was heartbroken over this and didn't know what else to do to stop the pain, so I decided to get high. When I got home, I was clearly raging. We started fighting and she blamed me and tried to make me feel like C*******P. Whenever I brought up the fact that I knew she had lied to me the night before and that I had seen the text, she gasburned me, saying that I must have been high because I was hallucinating. Heroin does not cause hallucinations at all. She then left the room, put on several rings, and proceeded to beat me thoroughly. I had cuts and bruises all over my face, and in an attempt to stop her, I grabbed her arm to stop her from beating me. 2 cops handcuffed me and almost took me to the station, but a higher-ranking cop showed up and said, "Are you guys insane? Look at this guy's face." He asked me if I wanted to press charges, but I said I wanted to be done with it. I first asked her to return my ring, return my tickets to the show we were going to with a hotel stay, and return my stuff from the apartment. She didn't give me anything back. Apparently, she threw away all my stuff, kept the ring, and sent me a picture of her and another guy at the show I had bought tickets for, purposely showing off the ring. I had blocked her, but she only sent it to me to spite me. Through friends, I had blocked her, but she sent it through a friend's messenger just to spite me. Worst of all, she is on YouTube and TikTok doing Pokemon card openings, cosplay, and other Pokemon-related content. Last I checked, she had 700,000 followers on TikTok and 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. However, none of her fans know that she is a monster. While she is very manipulative and physically violent, she is the most spiteful B** H I have ever met TLDR. Her fiancé lied about being sick, snuck out, and played with another guy all night. They slept together. When she found out, instead of taking responsibility, she beat me up so bad that I still have scars from it 10 years later. Story 67. He was abusive and was trying to turn me into his trade wife. He was much older than me, and I was still in my early 20s, so I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. A year into our relationship, I lost all my friends, my job, and the favors of my family. He slowly alienated them all, and they were frustrated that I couldn't break off the relationship as quickly as they wanted. He showed up at my workplace and caused a scene. He threatened a male coworker and even followed him home one day. After that incident, I was fired. I had to depend on him for money while I looked for a job that he would accept. He blocked me from interviewing for jobs he didn't like. He monitored my spending, internet history, and activities. I ended up pregnant, despite using a condom every time. I later found out from his ex-fiancée that he had a habit of stealing and tried to put her in a baby trap as well. When he found out I was pregnant, he said this was the best we could hope for and that we could move to a farm somewhere and continue having children. He had already started beating me and had already strangled me once before, so I knew that if I had the baby, he would kill me. I secretly had an abortion and was working on leaving him and moving to a women's shelter. He found out about the abortion from my cell phone location history. He beat me and choked me until I passed out. Luckily, he thought he had killed me and went to the garage to get something to dispose of my body so I could leave. I was able to leave and run, literally, to my mother's house. He then tried to kill me 2 more times. Once in his car, and the other time he broke into my mother's house and waited for me to come home from work. He was never charged with any crime. Despite the evidence of bruises, my medical records, and emails admitting the abuse,